When I was 25 years old, I was working at a great church in Lexington, Kentucky, under the legendary pastor known as Wayne Smith. Wayne retired, and he brought in this guy by the name of Mike Breaux, 40 years old, just off of planting a church in Las Vegas. And Mike Breaux came back to his hometown of Lexington, Kentucky, and took over Southland Christian Church, and it just absolutely exploded with growth. I was fortunate enough to be able to have a ringside seat to all that Mike was doing. And he was kind enough to take me under his wing and teach me what it meant to be a lead pastor and an effective communicator. In fact, I owe almost everything I am to Mike Breaux and his leadership in my life. Mike gave me the courage to go out to California and work at a church out there for the last 20 years. And he was kind enough to come out and work with me as one of our teaching pastors, preaching up to 12 times a year. We had an unbelievable experience out there, and now Mike is helping out multiple churches, preaching in various different places, and I couldn't think of a better way to bless you today here at Crossroads than to have my good friend and my mentor and my favorite preacher, Mike Breaux, come and close out our series, Explicit Lyrics. So would you give an absolute rock star welcome today for my buddy and soon to be yours, Mike Breaux.
Man, it's super good to be with you all, and I've been waiting for this for a long time. I love Rusty. I've known him for over 30 years, and he's just one of my favorite people in the world. I pray for this church every morning. My wife and I have been doing that for a year and a half, and we sit by a little fireplace in the morning, and we go through a prayer list, and Crossroads Church is on that list. So it's so good to finally get to be here with you all. I get to come back in April and do, I think it's a brisket battle or something, guys gathering. It's going to be awesome, and do another weekend service. I can't wait for that. Well, if you've been with us over the past few weeks, you know that we have been living in the land of pomegranates and raisins and lotus flowers. We have been in awe of the cedars of Lebanon and flocks of goats descending down the slopes of Mount Gilead. We have explored, quote unquote, the garden. We have climbed the palm tree. We have frolicked with the fawns, and the hills have been alive with the sound of music. And if this is your first time, you have no idea what I just talked about. But this has hopefully been a fun and impactful series for you, where we've taken a fresh, honest look at passion and romance and sex and intimacy and marriage from God's point of view in a very poetic and mysterious song found in the Old Testament section of the Bible. And we have watched this couple in the Song of Songs date and court and fall in love and get engaged and get married and go on a honeymoon. And last week, we watched them navigate their way through conflict. Now, we're going to skip over chapter 7, go right to chapter 8. But you can read chapter 7 on your own, because you'll see some more steamy, romantic stuff. You'll see that they're still enamored with everything about each other. They're still playing Marvin Gaye on Spotify in the bedroom. You know what I'm talking about. And whenever I read things like this, I think back to my own personal journey of love. It started for me in the 5th grade. I had a crush on this girl named Kathy. She sat in front of me on one of those little wooden desks, and she had braided pigtails. And as a fifth grade boy, I wanted to yank those pigtails so bad because I was in love with this girl. And so on Valentine's Day, we had to make these goofy little sacks we cut out a doily heart and glued it on the sack and put the sack on the front of our desk. And everybody brought everybody Valentine's cards. So they play a love song. We walk around the room. We put our Valentine's cards in the sacks. Well, I took my sack home and I dumped it out on the bed. Guess who's I'm looking for? I'm looking for Kathy's. And I opened up and it says in number 2 lead pencil, I love you, Mike. Oh my goodness. Next day at recess, man, I was throwing rocks at her. I was chasing, that's the way you show affection when you're a 5th grade boy. That's what I did. When I got into high school, my dating technique changed slightly, hopefully good, in a good way. And I can remember sitting in a movie theater with this girl, and I had a crush on her. I thought she was like the best person I'd ever met in my life, and I wanted to hold her hand so bad. But I would look over. I was kind of shy and awkward around girls, so I would look at her hand. I go, come on, bro, you can do this. And I'd go in a countdown mode. And I'd go, okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 10. No, I mean, it would take me forever to work up the courage to hold her hand. But when I did, and we interlocked fingers, and we rubbed thumbs together, like, oh man, this is what love is like. About 4 years later, that same girl walked down the aisle of a church with a beautiful white dress on. She walked up on the stage. A preacher asked a question. I said, I do. And she said, I guess. And we kissed each other, and we walked out of that church as husband and wife. And I thought to myself, man, this is what love is like. And then we went on the honeymoon, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is what love is like. And then 2 years later, I watched that same girl go through 36 hours of labor. Let me say that again, 36 hours of labor to bring our first child into the world, and that's when it finally hit me. Oh, I think that's what love is like. And here toward the end of this song, Solomon and Beloved, as she's called, are reflecting on their journey of discovering what real love is. And I want to show you the passage, how it begins. She says this in chapter 8, beginning in verse 5. She says, who is the sweeping in from the desert, leaning on her lover? Now, we're not sure just how old they are by now in the song, but it suggests that they're to the point where they are leaning on each other. Isn't it fun to see older couples still in love? I mean, still holding hands, still dating each other, still traveling, eating out together, just enjoying each other, even though they might have to lean on each other. I heard about an older couple who were cuddling on the couch watching TV, probably Wheel of Fortune or the Weather Channel, and he starts kissing her on the neck, and she says, I like that. Why don't you nibble on my ear like you used to? Well, the old guy gets up and leaves, and she says, where are you going? He said, going to get my teeth. I know, I want to be that guy. I just want to be that guy. So I want to work down through this short but truth-filled passage. I just want to point out a few things that our couple that we've been reading about for 4 weeks now, Solomon and Beloved, have learned about love. And the first thing is this: true love, it has a sense of grateful destiny. True love has a sense of grateful destiny. She's looking back. She's going through the photo album. She's scrolling pictures on her phone. She's smiling, reminiscing, and pointing, saying, you remember that? You remember that time I aroused you under the apple tree? She's alluding all the way back to their courtship days when they began to have deep feelings for each other. You might even remember in the beginning of the song where she told him that he wasn't at all intimidating like the towering trees of the forest, but he was more like an apple tree, that she felt shaded and protected with him. And he told her that even though she saw herself as just a common wildflower that grew on by the side of the road, he saw her as this unique and beautiful blossom that just stood out from all the rest. So their mutual respect for each other's character was growing, and it was in that moment of the song where they knew they were falling deeply in love with each other. So she finally says, you remember that? You remember that? And then she adds, under the apple tree where your mother gave you birth. And what she's saying here is, looking back at the way our love has been woven together, I just feel like you were born for me. And I was born for you, that there's this sense that God really did bring us together. I have that sense. I'm so grateful that way back in the 1900s, on February 28th, Shirley and Molly Watts had a little girl and named her Debbie. And I'm so grateful that my mom and dad decided to put me in the same church nursery as that little girl, Debbie. And I'm so glad that her dad was my youth league basketball coach, and that I discovered that the two brothers I played ball with for a long time had a really cute sister. And I'm grateful that somebody invited me to go to this youth group deal at church, and a seat was open right next to their very cute sister. And a friend told me one night at a skating rink that she thought if I asked her out, that Debbie girl would go. And I did, and she did. And then one day, actually under an apple tree, with an engagement ring hidden in the pocket of my softball glove, how romantic is that? She said yes. And on June 11, 1977, we would be married. And now 47 years later, we would have an incredible family. I'm just telling you, every time I look at a picture like that, it just feels like destiny. It's like both of us feel like God uniquely drew us together. And that's why when our kids were born, we started praying for their potential mate. And they all have phenomenal spouses, and each one of them could tell you they felt like God has kind of brought them uniquely together as well. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I put no stock in the philosophy that there's a Mr. Right out there. There's a Miss Right out there, and if you don't find them, you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. I don't think God works that way. I do believe God uses all kinds of people and all kinds of circumstances, unlikely ones, even tough ones, to cross people's paths and cause them to grow together. So just be grateful for the way that God is currently moving in your life uniquely. And as far as finding Mr. or Miss Right, it's up to you to become that right kind of person that somebody's looking for. So she's looking back at their journey with a whole lot of gratitude and then reveals another truth that they've been learning together, and it's this. True love journeys through pain. True love, it journeys through pain. In this verse, she not only expresses how grateful she is that his mom had given him birth, but she adds this, where in great pain she delivered you. I think she's saying, our love's been awesome, and I am so grateful for the day that you were born. I feel like God brought us together, but you know what? It hasn't always been easy. We've made it through the pain together. Our love has grown through the hardships. Beloved is saying true love is not always goosebumps and ecstasy. You're not always like weak in the knees with love. Sometimes life comes along and knocks you to your knees. And true love, it journeys through the pain. Now again, this is a song. It's not an autobiography of Solomon's life, but the mention of Solomon's mom introduces another famous person into the song. Anybody remember who Solomon's mom was? Ever heard of Bathsheba? If there was ever a woman who knew about the pain of love, it was her. She had been happily married to a brave and valiant man named Uriah. He was loyal to his friends, his fellow soldiers, highly respected among his peers, and she loved him. But one day, all that came crashing down. Solomon's father, King David, saw Bathsheba and wanted her for himself. And in this selfish and outlandish abuse of power, he sleeps with her. And he sends her home dishonored, and guess what else? Pregnant. So the king attempts to cover his tracks by bringing Bathsheba's husband home from war, hoping he would sleep with her. This was before the days of like DNA paternity tests. So no one would ever know who the dad really was. Well, this loyal warrior comes home and he totally messes up the plan by refusing to enjoy the love of his wife or the comforts of his home while his fellow soldiers are still out there on the battlefield sleeping on the ground. So he chooses to sleep outside. So now, desperate, David arranges to have the guy killed in battle in such a way that it appears to be a casualty of war. Well, the plan succeeds, and Bathsheba's honorable husband was killed, and her heart was shattered. She mourned again when the baby that David had fathered died. She went on, probably numbly at first, and she found the capacity to feel and love again. Because David agonized over his guilt and eventually came to terms with God about it and tried to make things as right as they could be. And Bathsheba grew to respect him for that, even grew to love him as he grew to love her. Her pain, his shame began to recede, and she found happiness in the birth of their second child, a son named Solomon. She felt hope as she watched him play and grow into this handsome, competent man. And then David, the man she had grown to love, he dies. And she mourns that loss too. But Solomon was still the joy of her life. And when she placed that wedding crown upon his head as he stood by his beloved, I'm sure her heart overflowed with joy. Out of all the incredible pain, out of all that had gone wrong in her life, had come this son who was now king and deeply in love with this girl. So when Beloved compares the pain of love with the pain of childbirth here, she is well aware that true love, it journeys through the pain, that it's not always happily ever after. Life in this broken world, as Jesus told us, would happen. And many of us have endured pain like this. Some of you have endured the pain of miscarriages, infertility, failed adoptions, the loss of a job, bankruptcy, mental illness, cancer, chemo treatments, prodigal kids, addictions, tragic accidents, even affairs. And God has been faithful to carry you through some of the toughest things imaginable. And as you go through all that, and then you look back at how much you've grown as a person and how much you've grown as a couple, you're able to look at each other and say, man, I thought I loved you way back then, but now, wow. You see, true love journeys with us through the pain. We said we went into the tunnel of chaos and we met God there and came out the other side even more deeply in love. And here's the deal. Love journeys through the pain because true love, it is strong and it's secure. It's strong and secure. Look what she says in verse 6 and 7. Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death, and its jealousy as enduring as the grave. I heard a pastor say one time, when you get married, you get fitted for your tux and your casket at the same time. Now, he wasn't taking into account, ain't no way that tux is going to fit 50 years later when you're in that casket. But he was talking about this relationship being a till death do you part kind of deal. Like Rusty said last week, marriage is not a contract. It's a covenant. Marriage is not a contract. It's a covenant. And the seal that she talks about here was not simply like a signature on the dotted line of some prenuptial agreement. It was a permanent mark of I am exclusively yours and you are exclusively mine. It was a sign of ongoing security and protection. Seal me upon your heart and on your arm. This relationship is not a contract based on ifs. It's a covenant based on even ifs. It's a signed, sealed, delivered kind of love, not always based on feelings, but a decision of the will. Now, granted, there are some things that break that seal. And when I say an even if relationship, I'm not talking about staying around even if he abuses you, or even if she cheats on you, or even if they abandon you. Just as we choose to love somebody, we can also choose to be very selfish and act in ways that break that seal. But what Beloved is saying here, I'm so grateful that you and I look at this as a permanent, good to the grave covenant relationship where we are committed to each other. You are mine and I am yours. We are us. She desires to be in his heart and on his arm as the most important person in his life. Jesus Christ is my first love. And I want to make sure that I'm pouring into that relationship and allowing him to pour into me. But make no mistake about it, Debbie Breaux is the most important person in my life. I love my kids with all my heart. I would lay down my life for them in a heartbeat. I love my friends. I love all the churches I'm a part of. But there is only one that's sealed in my heart. I can remember when my boys were little. If I would hear them talk back to their mom in a disrespectful way, I would pull them aside. Instead of saying, hey, don't talk to your mom like that, I would say, hey, don't talk to my wife like that. And they would go, oh, sorry, big guy. Didn't realize we were messing with your girl, you know. They knew that I loved them unconditionally. They never have doubted that. But they also never doubted that their mom and I were deeply in love. You remember in the beginning of the song where it said like he was like a pouch of perfume resting on her chest. And now she's saying, man, it's grown so much more than that. It's so much deeper than that now. We are sealed on each other's heart. And that kind of love brings strength and security to the whole family, where everybody in the family knows, man, this is us. You are mine, I am yours. Then the song says this, love flashes like fire, the brightest kind of flame. Many waters cannot quench love, nor can rivers drown it, which is the fourth thing they've learned through the years about love. True love, it burns from an inextinguishable flame. You know, fire sure has been a reoccurring image throughout this song, hasn't it? I mean, 3 flames have been burning throughout the song, and they're based on the 3 Hebrew words used for love in the Old Testament of the Bible. There's the raya love, which is the friendship. I like being with you kind of flame. Then there is the dode, which is the erotic, sensual side of love kind of flame. Then there's the avaha, which is the act of the will, the selfless, sacrificial love flame. And all 3 of those flames, they come from the inextinguishable source of love. Y'all remember the story about Moses, the prince of Egypt, was fugitive, hiding out on the backside of Mount Sinai, tending sheep, and he encounters this burning bush. And the bush is burning, but it won't burn up. And God speaks to him from that powerful flame. And in that picture, God reveals himself as the unquenchable, self-combusting, self-existent, inextinguishable source of true love. He is the eternal flame. And I'm telling you, unless you're hooked up with him in an intimate relationship, you'll never be able to bring the kind of love to its full extent to your relationships. Solomon would write a little bit later in the book of Proverbs. He would say this in Proverbs chapter 19. He said, what a man, what a woman desires is an unfailing love. What a man, what a woman desires is an unfailing love. And don't you sense that's true? I mean, in our culture, man, we go on a quest for love, don't we? I mean, our culture is all about love. Bookstore shelves are sagging beneath the weight of romance novels, and Hollywood is cranking out love story after love story. And how many love songs have been sent out over the airwaves by Delilah late at night for those who are looking for love? You know, love songs like Ed Sheeran's I'm Dancing in the Dark with You Between My Arms. You look perfect tonight. John Legend's All of Me loves all of you. That Klinger song by Katy Perry, Just Because It's Over doesn't mean it's really over, and if I think it over, maybe you'll be coming over again. And one of my all-time favorites, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you. I'm thinking you need a restraining order. Well, you need. But all kinds of love songs and all kinds of romantic movies. Some are great, most are kind of cheesy. I was flipping channels the other night, and I saw it on again. It was on TNT. I just had to watch it just for a second. It's that movie, an old movie, starring Tom Cruise as sports agent Jerry Maguire. And there are three famous lines from that movie. You remember what they were? The most famous line was, "Show me the money," right? The second quoted line is uttered by Jerry's wife, Renee Zellweger, who says, "You had me at hello," right? And then the one that just kills me is when he gives his wife this, "I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused you," look, and says, "You complete me." Debbie and I have been together for over 4 decades now. She's my soulmate. She's my best friend. I'd rather hang out with Debbie Breaux than anybody else on this planet. I miss her a ton when I'm traveling. I can't wait at the end of the day to get home and be with her. But make no mistake about it, she does not complete me. And I know this may come as a shock to you, but I don't complete her either. Jesus Christ completes us. And because of him, we are able to bring a more complete person to the relationship. Listen, to expect another imperfect human being to complete you, to expect any relationship to fill up that God-shaped hole in your heart is setting yourself up for a huge disappointment and setting the relationship up for a long uphill struggle. Remember what Solomon said? What a man, what a woman desires is an unfailing love. And gang, there's only one place to get that. I looked through the Bible and found that little phrase, unfailing love, appears over 40 times in Scripture. And every time it is used in connection with the only one who can actually give it. I want to show you just 4 or 5 of them. Like Psalm 32, verse 10. Unfailing love surrounds those who trust the Lord. Psalm 33, verse 5. The Lord loves righteousness and justice, and the earth is full of his unfailing love. Psalm 36, verse 7. How priceless is your unfailing love. Both high and low among men find refuge in the shadow of your wing, or shadow of your embrace. Psalm 130, verse 7, hope in the Lord, for with the Lord there is unfailing love and an overflowing supply of salvation. Psalm 17, show me your unfailing love in wonderful ways. You save with your strength those who seek refuge from their enemies. Guard me as the apple of your eyes. You know that? Did you know that you are the apple of God's eye? Hide me in the shadow of your wings, your strong embrace. We all long to be loved with a love like that. We all long to be the apple of somebody's eye. We all long for an unfailing love, one that is constant, one that will not disappoint, one that will not bail on us, one that is compassionate, one that is dependable, one that is unconditional, one that is perfect. Now, I know some of you might be saying, you've been saying this all throughout this series, you don't know how lonely I am. since my spouse walked out on me. You don't know how broken I am since he or she broke up with me. I want you to listen to what God says to those of you that might be feeling lonely and like something's been ripped out of your life. This is God speaking to you. He says this, don't be afraid. You will not suffer shame. Don't fear disgrace. You will not be humiliated. For your Maker is your husband. The Lord Almighty is his name. And some of you might be saying, well, yeah, but you're not in a family like mine, man. My parents, they don't give a rip about me. In fact, they even said they wish they'd never had me, or I got some pretty deep father wounds, or I got some pretty deep mother wounds, or maybe things just blew up at your home and there's constant tension and a pretty nasty split going on. Or perhaps you live alone in a city, on a college campus, in a lonely apartment. Any sense of family feels distant to you. Maybe you've been separated from your extended family for a long, long time. Well, here's a word for you. In fact, it's my wife's favorite verse of Scripture, Psalm 68. A father to the fatherless, a defender of widows, is God in his holy dwelling. God sets the lonely in families because that's what unfailing love can do. And there's only one place to get that. I agree with Brennan Manning, who writes in his book, Abba's Child. If we want to truly love, we must return again and again to the great love of the great lover. The most important thing you can do in your life is get to know his love, to grasp his love, to let your roots grow down deep into his unfailing love. Because I'm telling you, it's a love that is wider and higher and longer and deeper than you could imagine. Because when you do that, you're able to bring that kind of love to the relationship, and all those flames intertwine and are fueled by the inextinguishable, never burn out living God. I can remember back in my high school days, guys, we're so stupid, and somebody would ask you, hey man, have you and your girlfriend, have you gone all the way? Most of us had no idea that God's plan for sex was exclusively for marriage. Plus, we had no clue what going all the way really means. My friend Billy does, though. His wife Tandy was diagnosed a few years back with ALS. She was in and out of the hospital for different diagnoses, different treatments. Finally was confined to bed at home and got to the place where she couldn't move at all. And she's a remarkable person, just loved God with all of her heart. And she got an iPad with a program on it where you could look at a certain part of the iPad, since she couldn't really get up and move and stuff, couldn't type things at all. She would just look at the iPad and blink, and the program would interpret the blinks and type letters. And she would post all the time on Facebook and Instagram. And she even planned a Disney World vacation for her kids and her husband just by blinking on an iPad, set the whole thing up. I mean, she was a remarkable person. She communicated with people all over the world. It was pretty incredible. But Billy was equally incredible. I mean, every day he would get the kids up, get them dressed, get them fed, take them to school, give them baths at night, bathe her, help her with bathroom stuff, work remotely from home so he could be there all the time. 4 years. It was exhausting, it was hard, but he was incredible. When she passed, I went over to the house, and he started showing me gifts that people had sent her from all over the world. She had a fondness, because of Jesus, for crosses. So people would send her crosses really from all over the world, from like Australia, Greenland, South America, Texas, all over the place. And so walking the house, there's these crosses just all over the wall. He's pointing out each one and the notes that were attached to them. And so it was pretty cool. And then we walked into the bedroom. And it was only just a couple of days after she had passed away. And there were hospital supplies everywhere. Everything you could think of that was a medical device was in that room. It was just all over the place. And we walked in and goes, "Oh man, sorry for the mess." And then he paused and he teared up and said, "But this is what love looks like. I mean, she loved Jesus and her funeral was a celebration. But I'll never forget standing in that bedroom where going all the way meant something totally different. You see, true love begins with selflessness, and it matures through the journey of life. It endures through joy and pain and sickness and health and better and worse and richer and poorer. It's constant and it's strong and it's secure and it's unquenchable, and it reflects the one who is the source of all of it, the one who has unfailing love. I got to let you in on a secret. Our biggest hope for this series has been that you would fall in love with Jesus Christ, the one who loves you, the one who knows you. You see, this song is not only a manual for healthy romance and intimacy, it's a beautiful picture of the intimacy that God desires with you and me. I don't know whether you knew this or not, but God loves you. He pursues you. He finds you simply irresistible. He longs for you. He wants to be with you. He wants to walk with you through life. He will let you lean on Him. He will even carry you. He will protect you, shade you, make you feel secure and accepted. He will drive away your fears. He will give you peace in the middle of your pain. He will seal you on His heart, make you feel safe, and He'll teach you how to really love. If you want to love like that, I would invite you to come down today. We're going to have some folks down front that would love to pray with you about a relationship with Jesus Christ. Or maybe you have some stuff in your life you need some prayer for. Maybe some relationship stuff you just need to get some prayer for. We'll let you know, as we've already sang, the Father's arms are open wide. He just wants to meet with you right here today. So I'm going to pray, and then our team is going to come back up, and we're going to sing, and I'll invite you just to come down front and just pray with somebody today. Father, I want to thank you for what you've been teaching us through this song. It's seems cryptic and mysterious, but one thing is certain, just like every page in the Bible, it's all about Jesus and His love for us. So I thank you for that picture. I thank you that everything points back to the source of love, which is you. And God, it's my prayer that today someone would say, I want that kind of love in my life, because not being hooked up with unfailing love is I'm not able to bring the kind of love that I need to bring to all my relationships. I want to have a relationship with the living God. I want to be forgiven of my sin. I want to walk in freedom. I want to learn what it means to love. So, Father, I pray that would happen here today. Thank you for what you've been teaching us. We love you, and I pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.